For many Telltale fans, Gamescom 2024 was the final hope of receiving any news on The Wolf Among Us 2 this year. But when the show ended without any mention of the game, it was the final nail in the coffin for others. The Wolf Among Us 2 has been in development for years now, and was first revealed to the public in 2017 with a 2018 launch window in sight. But when Telltale Games was shut down that following year, it seemed that a second season would never see the light of day. But in 2019, Telltale Games was acquired by LCG Entertainment, and The Wolf Among Us 2 was re-announced. Much to our delight, we were told that production was back on track. A brand new trailer was dropped in 2022 showcasing new footage of the game and giving us a launch window of 2023. The trailer was promising, and after waiting almost 5 years and nearly losing all hope when the original Telltale closed its doors, it didn't take much for fans to latch onto the new footage, have a little patience, and trust that the team would deliver when it was ready. But when 2023 rolled around and the sequel was delayed for the second time to 2024, things began to look more worrying than they already were. Jamie Audley, CEO of Telltale Games, told IGN that the delay was due to a multitude of reasons, including the pandemic, which, along with competition in the games industry, made recruiting new talent difficult, switching from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5, and wanting to avoid crunch, a major issue that plagued the original studio. The game had been re-announced early, back in 2022, despite being in pre-production. Telltale was still getting back on its feet. The studio was understaffed, lacked funding, and the announcement was a means to help secure investments and foster support for the project. Despite the delay, fans were reassured that they'd see the beloved Fabletown gang again soon, and that the decision was made in the best interest of everyone. But as time went on, with the news of more layoffs at Telltale, previous devs speaking out about company issues, a severe lack of updates with only 6 screenshots being shown in over 2 years, and the company's deafening silence 8 months into what was supposed to be the game's release year, the writing on the wall is clear. What is going on at Telltale Games? We've waited 7 years. Is there anything to show for it? Is it safe to say that The Wolf Among Us 2 is actually dead? Well, I can't blame you for thinking it. Fans are fed up, and people can only blindly hope for so long. Especially when there hasn't been any actual proof of this game even existing beyond words, a 2-year-old trailer, and a few pictures. And while I don't think that the way Telltale is handling the situation is right, remaining silent and leaving us in the dark with empty promises, I do still think that there is hope for The Wolf Among Us 2. Not in 2024, that ship has already sailed. We've got 3 months left until December, but for 2025. Back in July, Telltale shared 2 new images of Bigby in celebration of OG Telltale's anniversary. A subtle reminder that the game is still a priority. It's also still up on the Epic Games Store to be wishlisted, and while this information isn't that significant, it does tell me that rumors of this game being quietly shelved or forgotten in favor of other projects simply aren't true. The Wolf Among Us 2 isn't dead, but I do think that there is a much larger issue we should be concerned about beyond whether the game will be coming out this year, and that's the actual reception of the upcoming sequel, and if it'll be enough to keep the company afloat. Telltale's most recent game, The Expanse, was solid. I loved the show and I enjoyed the game for what it was. It was fun to be Kamina Drummer, the badass no-nonsense captain, and make decisions on behalf of my crew, to play a game co-created by one of my favorite developers after I thought I'd never see them again. But I wasn't blind to its issues. Episodes felt short, the gameplay wasn't all that interesting, and the story lacked the depth typically found in a Telltale game. The whole experience felt rushed, the ending was underwhelming, and when the credits rolled, I remember thinking, that's it? I expected more from a Telltale game, and the lukewarm reception from the community told me that I wasn't the only one. Only 1 week after The Expanse concluded came the news of layoffs of over 50% of employees at Telltale, resulting in heavy backlash from the community who were concerned about the company and its credibility. And I honestly do think that The Expanse has a lot to do with the lack of information on The Wolf Among Us 2. Sadly, The Expanse just wasn't profitable in the long run, and Telltale is currently trying to make up for its losses. No, The Wolf Among Us 2 isn't dead, but the devs are currently under a lot of pressure. Their next game needs to be a hit. The Wolf Among Us 2 needs to be successful. Telltale literally cannot afford for it not to be. And as ironic as it is, its most anticipated game could very well be its swan song. Fans are already on the brink of giving up, and they can only hang on to those fading threads of nostalgia for so long. The lack of news doesn't surprise me, but I find myself more concerned about Telltale's future and how important this game is for the narrative genre as a whole. I fell in love with Telltale games back during the days of The Walking Dead. I remember checking every week for a new episode to drop. I wasn't much older than Clementine, and release dates were beyond me. But even then, I did comprehend that there was something about these games that were special, that I wanted more of. In its prime, Telltale Games was the epitome of powerful storytelling, pulling you in visually with its distinct art style, and captivating you wholeheartedly with unforgettable stories of love, sacrifice, courage, beauty, and redemption. These stories have undeniably impacted the narrative genre, and the industry has been all the better for it. I don't want to lose that. And while The Expanse wasn't what I anticipated, I want to remain hopeful that the team working on The Wolf Among Us 2 at least understand the significance of the game they're cooking. The Wolf Among Us 2 will make it or break it for Telltale. It is the factor that will determine the future of the company. If we'll ever see another Telltale game again, we know it, they know it, and it explains the silence. No, it doesn't justify it, but it does offer an explanation. My childhood memories of Telltale are not few and far between. There are thousands of us rooting for them, for renewal, for this game to be what we've always hoped for. Despite the frustration, no one truly wants to see the company crash and burn. And honestly, if a 2025 release date is what it takes for Telltale to find its footing, to make a good game, to show us that there is a future for them in the industry, then I feel no need to rush them. I'd rather wait than have cut corners and the same shortcomings that were present in The Expanse. Last we heard, the team was hard at work on their current build, keeping their heads down and focusing on bringing the game to life. So I say we let them. I'm fully expecting a delay within the next few months. It's inevitable, but I do have hope that we may receive new information on The Wolf Among Us 2 in December at the Game Awards. And if not, at the very least some kind of visual update beyond screenshots. And I know the majority of fans are tired of waiting. I'm tired of waiting. And I didn't make this video to defend Telltale or make it seem like I know exactly what's going on. I don't. No one does. I just wanted to share my thoughts on the situation and possibly foster a place for conversation. While the silence we're getting isn't a good thing and has gone on for far too long, I've just seen so much negativity, and I want to remind people that the game hasn't been cancelled. That it doesn't immediately mean the worst possible outcome for The Wolf Among Us 2 in the long run. And that the devs likely know that this is their final chance. Their make it or break it game, and that's why it's been so under wraps all this time. Nobody wants them to drop a game we've waited 7 years for, and it's a broken mess because they pushed it out too early. And yes, you can say, well, they shouldn't have announced it in the first place or promised us a release date at all. And I'd say you're probably right. And if there's no news on this game by the end of the year, it will be extremely concerning. But I want to see Telltale make a comeback. I want another banger, a memorable story, a sequel that is worthy of the time and sacrifice made to get it off the ground. Telltale, I'm still rooting for you. I would love to make content on The Wolf Among Us 2, but we need some kind of sign of life. Words can only do so much. For now, we play the waiting game, and hopefully come December, we'll all be rewarded for that same patience. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any thoughts on this topic, I'd love to hear from you. And if you are interested in future content on The Wolf Among Us 2, please consider hitting subscribe. I'll be covering any updates we get about the game, including new images, trailer breakdowns, and announcements. Try not to forget your glamour today, and I'll see you all later. Bye bye.